All too often people think, well, there's not much that can bring colour into my garden in the depths of winter. And yes, we are going into winter, and its effects are being felt by lots of stuff going brown, and we see the autumn colours coming through. But what are we going to do when those colours, even the little bit of colour that's still left, is not there anymore? Well, you can actually get a whole lot of colour happening in your garden, and you can keep little critters like bees happy too. So explain a trolley exercise to us.
A trolley exercise, yeah. We use it a lot in teaching, but I think it's a very good way of actually sampling something or a combination of things to go in your garden. And we do it with hard landscaping, we do it with plants, we do it as a combination of both. And today we're looking at plants. And it's a way of actually taking plants and putting them together in a small group, sort of a sample that can be expanded later into your own garden. And it prevents you from, you know, I always think about the trolley designers. These are like me. I'm one of those people. It's that impulse buying person who goes and says, well, I like this plant and I like that plant and I like the other plant. And when you get home, you don't really know what to do with them because you haven't really thought it through. Now, I've made that mistake often. And I think the best thing you can do is say, I like this plant and that plant, but let me put them together and see what works. Let me see if the colors work, the heights work, the textures work. Sometimes certain plants just don't go together. A trolley exercise is a really inexpensive, in fact, it's a free way of having a look at what plants will work or not work in your garden.
Michael, one of the ways of bringing colour into your garden isn't just through flowers, but by doing it with foliage. So what are the best plants to use for that?
Okay, I mean, that's a big question in terms of how, you know, there are so many, but I mean, we've chosen a sample today, and the sample we've chosen are plants that will look good in winter as well. So one of the things we try and do when we landscape gardens or we even do gardening is to get the garden to look good all the year round. And some plants don't lend themselves to that. But these plants that I have with me today lend themselves to that. And one of my personal favorites, this is a new one, by the way, is the Oxalis, which is an indigenous plant. And what I love about these things is they just disappear in summertime. My garden at the moment is full of these things, and it's frothing this plant. Beautiful green swades with yellow flowers, with white flowers, smaller purple ones with a pink flower. This one's got a lovely sort of light lilac color on it, but it's huge. I mean, this is the biggest Oxalis I've ever seen, and I think it gets bigger. So this is a fantastic specimen, and it gives you that variation in height, that variation in texture, but more importantly, it gives you that winter option. And it's nice that the plant comes up on its own and disappears again. We don't have to plant it every year. So it's actually technically not an annual. The other plants that we look at for permanence of color or permanence of plants right throughout the year is the good old Ophiopogon. Now, a lot of people say Mondo grass has got tired, but I don't think it'll ever get tired. And I think we use it in different and unique ways. And one of the good ones is this black one, the Black Mondo. And I like to be able to use this as a foil against some green Mondo, for instance, and whatnot. And this also gets a beautiful little tiny spikes of pink flowers on them. So also a fantastic feeling of permanent foliage in the garden. A lovely texture in the garden. When we talk about color in the garden, look at this Kaprosma. It's so beautiful. It just mirrors such beautiful, rich colors, red, hot colors in wintertime. This plant is going to go well with anything. And if let's look at the combinations. We talk about trolley exercises. That's the kind of thing we would do. Do they go together? Yeah, they look groovy together. So I think it's just one of the spectacular ways where we can introduce variation in height. Have a look at this Duranta, this beautiful lime leaf. This is going to stay like this. Okay, they do get burnt a little bit when they get severe frost, but they will come back every single time. They come back fighting. But look at this beautiful combination. And this is the kind of thing we can do in a trolley exercise. And if you just look next to me, if I was to say, imagine if I had that combination, and that combination in the garden. Look at the kind of color I can use. And just by using these three plants, maybe mass planted, I think I'm introducing something really powerful for winter.
Michael, when it comes to annuals, we are spoilt for choice here in South Africa. We can use international flowers as well as our own local ones. What are your favorites for brightening up a garden bed?
Well, yeah, I mean, annuals obviously not everyone's cup of tea, but you know, if I go annuals at this time of the year, I cannot keep my hands off pansies and violas. So when I look at what's out there at the moment, it kind of boggles the mind. Look at this, it's virtually black. What an incredible plant. And if you look at this particular plant and you look at something else, like for instance, let's have a look at these ones here. which have got the pansy, which has got the white. And look at that beautiful contrasting you can introduce into your garden. So you could almost create a chessboard. But when you talk about variety, Mel, I wouldn't be able to sit here explaining varieties all day long. There are just too many of them. But look at the name of this one. I just love this name, Blackberry Sunday Mix. You know, and they've just got such beautiful names. Look at this fantastic one over here. Looks like a watercolor painting. It really does look as though it's been done by an artist with a fine hand. Viola Penny Peach Jump Up. They've got some beautiful names. I think the names themselves sell these plants. But just to introduce the color, look at these hot colors over here. And by the way, when I look at these colors, I look at the yellows, I look at the blues. The first thing I think about is the bees, because these are bee colors. Those are the favorite bee colors. But on the note of color, one of my favorite colors, and it's always my go-to color, and this is going to sound strange because really people will say it's not a color, is white. Why white? If you look at white plants, for instance, and let's have a look at this. You take the yellow, for instance, and you put a white plant as a backdrop behind the yellow, and look how it makes that color pop. So white binds the garden together if you introduce it as an embroidery into the garden, but it also brings out the richness of other colors.
Of course, for people who don't have actual gardens, we can do things like installing hanging baskets, which are very easy. And of course, they're making them these days so that they are all the different colors. Do you find that there's a place for hanging baskets?
Yeah, remarkably, I've come across many people who said, I don't like hanging baskets, I don't like this kind of thing. And I always see it as an opportunity. When I talk to people about landscaping in inner space to me is this space. It's not the wall, it's not the ceiling, it's not the floor, it's inside the garden space itself. And I think hanging baskets is a beautiful way to landscape or to garden in inner space, balconies, patios, in the garden itself, off of tree branches, to get that color pop at eye level, at head level, to introduce the varieties. Look at this beautiful night sky. I think it's one of your favorites.
Lightning sky. Yeah.
And then of course, you know, once again, you've got this incredible how to brighten up a space, and of course this is full sun, please. So you know, we can use these in full sun. Just remember that winter hasn't taken away the whole requirements of saying, well, certain plants like shade and certain plants like more sun.
Those people who have started a vegetable garden, there's one thing we always say to them: always plant marigolds, because they are so good at repelling pests or attracting the bad ones away from what you're growing. But of course, you don't really get those in winter time. They don't flower through winter.
Yeah, so one of the things that happens with marigolds is it's not their time. So what happens in my winter veggie garden, when I want not just that companion, but I also want that look and feel, that pop color, that orange, that yellow coming through. And our go-to plant for this is Calendula. So when we look at these calendulas, you can see they could easily be mistaken at a distance for marigolds. They have that same coloring, they have that same kind of look. And they do very well through winter. So this is your winter replacement or your winter option for your marigold look and feel and companion in the veggie garden. I mean, you could use them as ornamentals as well. Why not?
And of course, one thing, and you can see popping out behind you there, which is being visited by the bees even at this time of the year, and something that we should all have in our gardens, are Indigenous Aloes.
Yeah, so I mean, the aloe, you know, what can I say?
Hello.
So, I mean, this is, once again, this is their time. And if we look behind us, you just see these spikes. Now, when we put these in this garden, we couldn't see the aloe. We could just see, but I mean, look at the beautiful structural, architectural form of the aloe in the first place, without even the blooms, the flowers. So you've always got that right throughout the year. But when it gets to winter, what a great option to have when the aloes come up. And then you see the little sunbirds, you see the bulbuls, you see the bees, the passing bees. We're giving the bees an option in our garden for wintertime. And for me, there are few plants that beat the aloe in a nice sunny place, a low maintenance plant, low water requirements, but looks incredibly sexy at this time of the year. And basically right throughout winter, you're going to be able to enjoy your aloes in one form or another.
So for those of you who think, well, there's not much I can do in my garden come winter, we have just given you so much you can do. It doesn't have to be bleak and stay inside kind of weather. You know what? Get out there. We have, especially in Johannesburg, the best weather through winter. Maybe a little bit cold, but you know what? Get out, enjoy the sunshine, and of course, enjoy the color.